Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. What you resist persists. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. Shame is a soul-eating emotion. A dream that is not understood remains a mere occurrence. Understood, it becomes a living experience. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. There are as many nights as days, and the one is just as long as the other in the year's course. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness. Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. To ask the right question is already half the solution of a problem. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers. The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering. Life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. If one does not understand a person, one tends to regard him as a fool. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. When love is the norm, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, their love is lacking. An understanding heart is everything in a teacher, and cannot be esteemed highly enough. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. A creative person has little power over their own life. They are not free, but captive and driven by their daemon. Without emotion, there is no transformation. Everything living dreams of individuation. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Man is not complete until he has experienced both the shadow and the light. The highest, most decisive experience is to be alone with one's own self. A tree that must endure strong winds develops deep roots. Dreams are the guiding words of the soul. Depression is like a woman in black. If she turns up, don't shoo her away. Invite her in. Offer her a seat. Treat her like a guest. and listen to what she wants to say. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. It is not the things that happen to us, but how we deal with them, that matters. There is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. Real liberation comes not from glossing over or repressing painful states of feeling, but only from experiencing them to the full. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. All true things must change, and only that which changes remains true. Your psyche works like a magnet. It attracts what it secretly harbors. Sometimes you have to do something unforgivable just to be able to go on living. The only meaningful life is a life that strives for the individual realization of one's potential. Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. We deem those happy who, from the experience of life, have learned to bear its ills without being overcome by them. A special ability means a heavy expenditure of energy in a particular direction, with a consequent drain from some other side of life. Freedom stretches only as far as the limits of our consciousness. Who has fully realized that history is not contained in thick books but lives in our very blood. The images of the unconscious place a great responsibility upon a man. Failure to understand them is almost equivalent to a loss of soul. Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then that life was wasted. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. We are not what we are what we become. Nature has no need of pretending and does not lie. It is we who deceive ourselves. Faith, hope, love, and insight are the highest achievements of human effort. They are found given by experience. The self is our life's goal, for it is the completest expression of that fateful combination we call individuality. I must also have a dark side if I am to be whole. Where there is no love, there is no sense in life. To confront a person with his shadow is to show him his own light. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. We discover ourselves through suffering. The larger the island of knowledge, the longer the shoreline of wonder. Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling. The paradox is one of our most valuable spiritual possessions. Where love rules, there is no will to power. The collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution, born anew in the brain structure of every individual. The sight of something perfect makes one pale with envy, and because of this, we begin to denigrate it. Every good idea and all creative work are the offspring of the imagination, and have their source in what is irrational. One-sidedness is what brings men to the devil.